Andrew asked the question, what is the best strategy for someone with okay levels of super and one investment property, divest on retirement or wait? Oh, this is the question I mentioned earlier. Now, this scenario is an interesting one, and you could maintain, if there's no debt on the property, for example, I think it's reasonable to maintain the property. If there's a little bit of debt, you can maintain it as well. It's low interest rates. It's probably going to be positively geared. I wouldn't be having a negatively geared property in retirement. But the question is, do you divest of it or do you not? It depends on what your other cash flow is like. So if you've got enough in your superannuation fund to top up the rental income that you're getting from the investment property, then you could maintain the investment property for a little while. One reason that you might divest of the property on retirement is that it's sometimes an advantageous way to sell down a property and manage the capital gains at the same time. So if say for example you retire before 65, if you're under 65 you can put up to 3 years of non-concessional contributions into superannuation. So you could put up to $540,000 in before turning 65. So you could sell a property, put that money in. If you've got a spouse, she potentially or he could put another 540 if they're under 65 into superannuation as well. So you could get over $1 million into your superannuation account by selling an investment property if you're able to do that before turning 65. One benefit of selling the property after your retirement is that if you've retired in June, for example, you sell the property or contract to sell the property in July, that means it falls into a year that you haven't got any employment income. You can then also offset or reduce the amount of tax payable if there's capital gains on the property. Another reason for potentially selling it and moving into superannuation is that over time it's going to accrue more capital gains as it goes up in value, and the rental income will increase as well, to the point that you might end up paying some tax on, depending on your marginal tax rate and what structure it's owned in, you could actually be paying some tax on the rental income that you're generating from the property, and you're going to increase the capital gains over time. Whereas if you sold the property and put the money into the pension phase of super, even if the assets within super increase in value, there's no capital gains tax paid in the pension phase of super. And then the other reason why we sometimes consider moving property into superannuation around retirement is the lumpy asset syndrome. If you've got most of your assets in this investment property and only a little bit of money elsewhere, if, for example, the rental property is generating $20,000 a year in income and you need $40,000 to live on, and there's no other income coming through apart from the money from the investment property, you can't just sell off a garage or a room each year to make up the other $20,000 that you need to live on. So there's the lumpy asset syndrome, where you've got this big asset, lumpy asset that's not providing you income, but you can't sell down a portion of it to make up the difference of the income requirement. That's where unitized investments can provide a better outcome. But if you've got other assets, then you can keep the property as well. So I hope that answers your question, Andrew.